Presidential Activity, March 2019. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the Prime Minister to discuss the latest developments of the ongoing investigations to uncover circumstantial evidence of Egypt's station train accident. The meeting also discussed the execution of the Ministry of Housing Plan of Action. President Sisi received head of the Eastern Churches Complex in the Vatican and the special representative of Pope Francis. During the meeting, Sisi stressed the current approach of the Egyptian state in instilling the values of coexistence and freedom of worship. During his meeting with the Kenyan Foreign Minister, President Sisi stressed the importance that Egypt attaches to enhancing bilateral relations with Kenya, pointing out Egypt's keenness to maximize coordination and consultation with the Kenyan side during the Egyptian presidency of the African Union. During his meeting with the chairman of the Organization for Development and Cooperation of the World Energy Linkage, President Sisi praised the important role played by the organization at the global level, welcoming the cooperation between the Egyptian government and the organization. President Sisi's meeting with the Prime Minister and a number of ministers and senior officials reviewed the various stages of implementing Damietta Furniture Project. During the meeting, the President directed managing and investing the city ideally to support the national furniture industry. The President met with the Prime Minister and a number of ministers and senior officials. The meeting discussed social protection plans and programs implemented by the state and reviewed developments related to activating the law of people with special needs. During his meeting with the Prime Minister and Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, President Sisi directed continuing modernization and development of the petroleum sector, in addition to intensifying the focus on oil and gas infrastructure projects. During President Sisi's meeting with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Education and Technical Education, the President stressed the need to apply modern technological means in the stages of the education development project, as it represents a fundamental pillar of the national plan. President Sisi met with the Prime Minister and a number of senior officials. The meeting discussed the situation regarding the strategic stocks of basic commodities and the government's efforts to provide them to citizens. President Sisi witnessed the activities of the 30th Educational Seminar of the Armed Forces at Al Manara Center for International Conferences and Exhibitions on the anniversary of Martyrs' Day. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi witnessed the performance of Minister of Transport Kamel El-Wazir taking the oath. Later, Sisi met with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Transport. During the meeting, the President directed exerting the utmost efforts to develop the railway system comprehensively. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the Chief Executive Officer of the Japan Foreign Trade Organization. President Sisi expressed his aspiration to cooperate with Japan to promote trade and economic relations through extending the recent Japanese investments. During his meeting with the Norwegian Minister for Foreign Affairs, President Sisi stressed Egypt's keenness to develop bilateral cooperation between Egypt and Norway in various fields, especially in maritime shipping, port management, fisheries, and energy projects. President Sisi received the Sudanese First Vice President and Minister of Defense. The meeting discussed means of enhancing the bilateral relations between the two countries at all levels, and underlining the significance of completing their electricity linkage project. During his meeting with the Slovenian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sisi welcomed the holding of the Egyptian-Slovenian Business Forum on the sidelines of the meetings of the Egyptian-Slovenian Joint Committee, which will contribute to enhancing investment relations between the two countries. Sisi received the delegation of the National Committee for the Management of the Pre-Transition Phase in the state of Southern Sudan. During the meeting, the President affirmed the importance that Egypt attaches to supporting brothers in South Sudan to achieve security and stability in the country. During his meeting with the Tanzanian Minister of Defense and National Service, President Sisi praised efforts to back military cooperation between Egypt and Tanzania. The meeting discussed means of enhancing bilateral relations in a number of joint cooperation fields. President Sisi toured a number of development projects in Toshka area, including date, wheat, grapes, and sheep farms projects, where he was briefed on the action developments of these projects. President Sisi witnessed the celebration of Egypt's presidency of the African Union during the launching of the Arab and African Youth Forum in Aswan. During his speech at the opening session of the forum, President Sisi emphasized the importance of dialogue, which contributes to a better future for Arab and African peoples. During his meeting with the chairperson of the African Union Commission, President Sisi stressed the need to intensify efforts of the African Union to prevent conflicts and activate the African Union's policy for reconstruction and development. President Sisi made several recommendations during his participation in the closing session of the Arab-African Youth Forum and honored a number of creative Egyptian, Arab, and African youth at the closing ceremony of the forum. President Sisi toured the economic section on the sidelines of the Arab and African Youth Forum in Aswan, where he was briefed on the activities of a number of young entrepreneurs in Egypt. President Sisi held an interactive dialogue with the Arab and African youth from the Temple of Fela, during which he listened to innovative ideas on the prospects of enhancing Arab-African integration under Egypt's presidency of the African Union. President Sisi met with the Prime Minister and a number of ministers. The meeting discussed the follow-up actions taken on the first phase of the Comprehensive Health Insurance National Project, as well as the updates of the 100 Million Health Initiative to eliminate Virus C. During President Sisi's meeting with the Prime Minister, the Minister of the Public Business Sector, and a number of officials of the Ministry of Public Business Sector, the President directed pursuing efforts to develop public business companies, as well as doing studies and taking measures to overcome the challenges facing a number of these companies. President Sisi directed the government to withdraw the formation on the judgment of special bonuses for pensioners during his meeting with the Prime Minister and a number of ministers. The meeting discussed the special proposals submitted by the committee formed to reform the wage system. During his meeting with the executive director of the World Food Programme, President Sisi stressed Egypt's support for the priorities of the World Food Programme to boost its activities in the developing countries. After the bilateral talks between President Sisi and the Iraqi Prime Minister, a wide-ranging session of talks was held between the two countries' delegations. They discussed means of enhancing mutual cooperation, especially in the economic and trade fields. President Sisi met with the Jordanian King Abdullah, and together with the Iraqi Prime Minister, they held a trilateral summit on ways to enhance cooperation in various fields between the three countries. During his meeting with the Chinese Defense Minister, Sisi stressed Egypt's keenness to strengthen the extended cooperation relations between the two countries. The meeting reviewed a number of issues of common interest and means of enhancing bilateral cooperation. During his meeting with the Secretary General of the World Tourism Organization, Sisi noted Egypt's efforts to develop the tourism system, stressing Egypt's keenness to enhance cooperation and coordination with the organization to promote tourism. President Sisi received the Swiss Foreign Minister. Sisi voiced out Egypt's aspiration to reinforce bilateral relations in the various fields, underlining the importance of increasing the Swiss investments in Egypt. President Sisi received his Bulgarian counterpart. The two presidents held a bilateral talks session, followed by an extended session including the two countries' delegations. The talks tackled means of enhancing bilateral relations. During the joint press conference, President Sisi expressed his cherishment of the two countries' historical ties, pointing out the importance of exchanging views on ways to enhance joint cooperation and security coordination in face of terrorism. President Sisi received the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi. The discussions tackled means of promoting bilateral cooperation at various levels. Sisi and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan witnessed the signing ceremony of a number of cooperation agreements. President Sisi took the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi on an inspection tour of the new city of Alamein. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and his wife witnessed the celebration of honoring the Egyptian woman and the ideal mother. The President affirmed during his speech on this occasion that there is still much to achieve in the march of support and empowerment of the Egyptian woman. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi traveled to Tunisia to participate in the Arab Summit at its 30th session. The summit discusses Arab issues, particularly the Palestinian issue, the crisis in Yemen, Syria, Libya, solidarity with Lebanon, support for Somalia, and other issues beside the Golan File. In his speech at the opening session, President Sisi stressed that confronting the danger of terrorism requires a rapid move to employ all tools to combat terrorism.